The only reason homelessness exists is because of greed. The only reason rents are so high is because of greed. But mainly a company called BlackRock and their CEO's fucking greed. Why are rents so high? Because properties and property taxes are so high. Why are they so high? Because giant corporations are able to buy up hundreds and thousands of homes, drive up the prices so other people can't afford them, and then rent them out at ridiculously high prices. And if you buy one of those homes and try to rent it out, you have to rent it out at a really high price because the price of the homes is so high and the taxes are so high. So then people foreclose on their homes. People are stuck paying ridiculous amounts of rent so they can never afford a home. And then they buy up more of those homes, and eventually over time, all the homes will become so priced out that no one can afford to live anymore. Creating a system where we're all basically just medieval serfs paying our landlord all the money that we make. That's essentially just slavery with extra steps on a mass scale.
Rogers is allegedly in the process of laying off over 1,000 employees who they made train the AI that was eventually going to take their job. An employee who reported this online has said that they were told specifically by management not to go to the media and to stay quiet. And to be fair, I haven't been able to find any major media reports corroborating this, which you can take one of two ways. One, that Rogers owns a lot of the media in Canada and has huge influence, and so companies have been slow going to report on this. Or two, maybe that it's not entirely true. But even if this specific round of 1,000 plus layoffs isn't happening, Rogers is down over 2,000 employees from last year. They're outsourcing a number of their call centers overseas, even after promising to hire more Canadian workers following the Shaw merger. And this is just a drop in the bucket when it comes to AI-related layoffs in the tech sector. This year, AI has already replaced nearly 100,000 jobs just in tech alone, with many employees being forced to train the AIs that were later going to take their job. When it comes to Rogers, this alleged recent round of layoffs is in customer service and call centers. If you're Canadian and you've ever been on the phone with Rogers, it's hard to imagine their customer service getting any worse. But now, instead of being on the phone for 2 hours just to talk to an incompetent person, you can be on the phone for 2 hours just for an incompetent AI to send you back to the beginning of the cycle. This is from the Rogers report to shareholders in 2024, where they reported an increased free cash flow of 26%, 12 straight quarters of growth, and returned over $1 billion in dividends to shareholders. This is also after Bell and Rogers threatened to pull investment out of the country if any kind of regulations required them to share their services with other telecoms. Canada, I will remind you, have some of the most expensive telecoms plans in the world. But surely cutting 1,000 jobs and replacing them with AI will lead to savings for the company, which will be passed on to the consumer, right? I'm sure we can all look forward to cheap internet and phone plans. More likely, they're just going to try to add a little zero right after the one there, while the rest of us fight for hours with an AI chatbot.
Y'all be so scared of socialism, and in the same breath get so scared that your Medicaid or your Medicare benefits are going to get cut. You guys are so pro-capitalist until it comes down to your Social Security checks. Y'all are anti-government handouts until it comes to your Social Security checks. And if you are currently over the age of 65 and collecting Social Security checks, how the fuck do you think you're able to even claim that money? Where do you think that money is coming from? Forget the taxes you paid. If we all, the working class right now, stop paying taxes, there would be no Social Security. There would be no Medicaid. There would be none of that. There would be none of those benefits. There's a lot of people online who can't make the connection that capitalism and greed has gone so far in this country. Socialism is not the reason why your insurer is denying your coverage and your benefits and denying your procedures and charging you astronomical deductibles and copays and whatnot. It's not socialism's fault that the cost of living has gone up exponentially and wages have stayed stagnant. It's not socialism's fault that your adult children have to live with you because they can't afford to rent an apartment or get housing for themselves. I'm not here to say that socialism is the answer, but this idea that capitalism is going to save us all and it's this great system, while it has its benefits, look at where we are today and let's start making the connection of the fucking greed to capitalism.
I need all of you to understand something. This is not a flex. Let me read it for you. A 100-year-old man just retired after working at the same company for 84 years, starting in 1940. No quiet quitting, no job hopping, just pure loyalty. That's a bad word. In a world that forgot what that means. While most switch jobs every 3 years, he built a legacy. A legacy of what? I'm not against working in the same job for years on end, but he was 100 years old. Why are you working at 100 years old? This is the type of propaganda corporations want you and me to fall for. Work, work, work until you can't work anymore, and at the end of your life, we'll give you a nice $25 gift card and a tumbler with the company logo on it. This has nothing to do with loyalty. He was loyal to a company and forgot to be loyal to himself. Because I'm sorry, working 84 years straight in the same company and you retired when you were 100, that man forgot to live the only life he was given. That's not a flex. Don't fall for it. It's a trap.
So no one is saying the quiet part out loud, and I haven't seen anybody say this out loud, so I'm going to say it out loud. Once these tariffs go in and we see these price increases, that's going to be our new normal. The prices are not going to come back down. I don't for the life of me seeing that if/when these tariffs go away, corporations are going to willingly lower the prices back because they're going to have a new baseline for what their record profits are. So if they increase the prices on goods that we're receiving today, they're not going to decrease it just because tariffs are going away. And I feel like we've seen this with COVID. When prices go up, they don't come back down after the crisis, and things have not returned back to normal, at least for me. I'm noticing that the same items that I was buying about 5 years ago are have a % increases when I go to buy those same items. And another thing is I saw somewhere that phone companies are also putting tariffs on stuff. And for me, it makes sense if I'm buying a physical device, like a phone, an AirPod, or whatever the device is, to have to pay a tariff on it. But if these tariffs are going on voice lines, voice calling, texting, that just kind of speaks to the greed. And that just kind of reaffirms my belief that once these tariffs go in, those are going to be our new normal prices. And I don't for the life of me see corporations raising the wages of everyday people to kind of account for these increases. So people are going to continue to struggle. And I'm kind of just we're just going to wait and see what happens.
Surprise, surprise. DoorDash at it again, screwing over another one of our great customers. Now check this out. We have an order over here from Chipotle. Guess what? They're going to have to wait to get their food until the driver does 9 items of shopping at Winn-Dixie. Now, if the driver's fast, that's not too bad. But still, you have that food sitting there and time is ticking. It's getting colder. So now, luckily, you're this house right here. So you will get your food first. And there's a chance you will get it warm. Why are we even having this happen to your order? You're a good customer. How do I know that? Because they don't want to pay for that Winn-Dixie order to get taken out. So they're stacking it with your order to entice someone to do it. So they don't want to pay any more wages out of their pocket. So they sacrifice your meal to save them a few bucks. How do I know all this shit? How do I know that Chipotle order is $6 and 2.5 miles? Mere moments before getting that offer, got this one. There it is. Pay attention to the offers they send. You will freaking see all the bullshit that they try to pull. Now, you can hook this customer up. If you have enough in your cancellation bucket, you can get rid of this nonsense, send it on its way. Go take that person, their Chipotle, let them enjoy it. You have a nice $6 and 2.5 mile trip. Should be done in less than 10 minutes. Done.
So I'm looking at my checking account, and I couldn't remember whether, I had it on what account. Anyhow, I see here $5 withdrawal fee, $5 withdrawal fee, $5 withdrawal fee. That's $15. So I remember years ago, I left the bank that I was at because all these fees, all these costs. And so fast forward to now, I see that at first, the credit union offered me $3,000 for overdraft protection. I said, I am not going to overdraft $3,000. I'm not going to do that. But they also had a 2 and 1,000. So I said, okay, because I may overdraft and that'll be a little cushion. 500 would probably be enough, but I can't imagine. Anyhow, I did it. So as the years went by, whenever I went over a little, that money would move into my account and cover it. A couple more years go by, and they decide if I don't physically go into my account and move the money in an overdraft situation, they charge me $5. Yeah. Okay. So I went along, and if I found that I was going to be overdraft, I, move it myself. But sometimes, anyhow, I decided just not to cut it that close. But eventually, I was doing it again. And then I found if I moved the money, if I realized that if I moved the money quickly, it seemed to take them at least a day before they actually would deduct the $5. So then I started doing it. Just, okay, I think you're kind of close there. Move the $5, all right. And then I would always, put it right back. I just like to keep it right at that 1,000. And so then years went by, and they started charging, instead of $5, $8. $8. Well, I guess somebody else besides me was uncomfortable with that, and that was changed, and they did go back down to the $5. Victory, not so fast. This account shows me that now it doesn't matter whether I move it or not. If the money is taken out, they're going to charge me $5. Greed. There's too much of it.
I'm gonna redo this for you because I am so fucking disturbed. I am so disturbed. You guys are not understanding how shady and messed up FedEx really is. They've built a business model that looks legit on the outside, but behind the scenes, it's fear-based, manipulative, and borderline abusive. Contractors are gagged, like literally. They're not allowed to discuss their contracts with one another, or FedEx will terminate them. And they have before. Spencer Patton, anyone? He spoke out, and FedEx terminated him. Stripped him of over 200 routes overnight. Gone. Sued him. Tried to silence him. But he won in court twice. And still, the culture of silence, unchanged. A lot of contractors have put their entire life savings into FedEx. They're scared. They don't speak up because they can't afford to just lose it all. FedEx knows that, and they fucking bank on that. FedEx is slowly phasing out Express. And once that's done, ground drivers are going to be expected to absorb that workload. More ICs, aka heavy, large parcels, packages, whatever. More volume, no protection, no benefits. We're maxed out. Honestly, this isn't just like unfair shit. It's a collapse waiting to happen. And when it does, I'm sure FedEx will blame the workers. Watch. I almost guarantee you.
In a frightening new chapter in American history, Donald Trump is using ICE like the Gestapo. One of my focuses on my platform is to help you understand where money flows in and out of politics especially with corporations. That's why I've created this video to help you understand which big companies are supporting the operations of ICE with materials and services. This will be a two-part series. The first one I'm going to focus on large corporations that you likely know. The second one will focus on other corporations that you may not know about, but maybe in your own backyard. So let's take a look at some of the largest companies getting big contracts to support the operations of ICE. One company that gets lots of big contracts and is helping in a variety of ways is Deloitte. For instance, Deloitte was given a $62 million contract to assist with law enforcement systems. They were also given a $15 million contract to provide communication and support services for ICE. The company Dell is also providing both hardware and support services to ICE. AT&T was given a $32 million contract by ICE to help with IT infrastructure for the organization. Microsoft also has multiple contracts.
Hi everyone. I was just at Nestor's Market in Squamish right now, and I picked up some, like there were 3 or 4 pieces of the lasagna in the deli case, and I asked for one, and she didn't put the sticker on the outside, and to be honest, I didn't even realize. And then when I went to pay for it, there was no sticker. I'm like, okay, so now there's a lineup, and then the person had to go and get the price and get it weighed, and it turned out to be $16.57. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't know, is it just me? But like, to have a slice of lasagna, I get that it's a big piece, but $16.57 for a piece of lasagna seems a little bit too high for me, especially because it's been sitting in there for who knows how many days. And I'm guessing that it's made, like it does look fresh. However, I don't know.
It is straight up crazy work to be checking out at the grocery store and have them be like, do you want to donate to end hunger forever? I don't think you, corporate grocery store, who throws out groceries on a daily basis and then locks your dumpsters, should have a goddamn thing to say about ending hunger forever on my dollar, my dime. For your tax write-off, end hunger forever. Ooh, I'm some monster for clicking no, I don't want to end hunger forever. Cunts.
As an artist, it's okay to just make music, but when your goal is to become a superstar, then you have to stand up for what is right. Greed is leading to the downfall of our nation. The objective that is instilled within us from the second we are cognitive is to make as much money as you possibly can, when the real goal should be to become financially free, and then with that excess money, go out and help as many people as we can. Selfishness has become so prominent and normalized that we are justifying the existence of billionaires when there are millions of people homeless on the streets and exponentially more people struggling to get by every single day. The class disparity is continuing to worsen every single day. The everyday citizen is now turning on each other, blaming Republicans and Democrats when the real threat and the real problem is the 1%.
So this is kind of a random thought, but I thought I would talk about my, I guess, view on capitalism and greed as an autistic person who was just fired from their job due to their autistic traits. Capitalism is the whole reason that a lot of autistic people really struggle in workplaces and we don't fit in. Workplaces view us as burdens and as liabilities, and they see that, oh, if we need accommodations and extra support, then that's too much for them to provide. And it's just easier and enables them to make more of a profit if they just hire somebody who doesn't need those accommodations. I just find that it is fucked up, and I have grown to really dislike greediness and capitalism as an autistic person because of how it has treated me in the workplace. I just need to get a job so I can pay my bills. And I don't appreciate the fact that a lot of these jobs push people like myself out because we don't fit the mold and because we're different. We don't fit this traditional idea of what people think is desirable. I was working in an accounting job. That's what I went to college for. I have a business administration degree.
And honestly, I don't think I will ever go back into like accounting/finance ever again. I'm looking to pivot away from those for good. I mean, I've tried accounting jobs and they have literally none of my accounting jobs that I've tried have worked for me. It's ended in me getting fired. So I think that's a sign that this is not the path for me. I'm hoping to get back into premium auditing because that was what I was doing before I moved and I was absolutely excelling in. But one reason I don't think I ever want to go back into the finance world and like work my way up is because of the greediness and the capitalism involved in it. You know, I don't so much want to work in a role where I'm basically helping a person that's already well off as it is get even more rich. I liked premium auditing because at least at the company that I worked at before, I was working with people who ran small businesses. I was doing workers' comp audits for policyholders who were running small businesses, regular, everyday people that were just trying to make a living doing something that they were passionate about. And I like that a lot more than managing the finances of somebody that's already well off, you know. I have an interview for another premium auditing position lined up for Thursday. However, if that opportunity does not work out, I'm also considering looking into applying to become a school bus driver in my local school district, because like that's another thing where they train you and everything, but like again, that sounds much more fulfilling than a role where I'm just helping a greedy person become more rich and more greedy. I'm helping take children to school who otherwise would not have the transportation. That sounds a lot more fulfilling.
If you're not on Medicaid, you might think that the cuts in the big beautiful bill have nothing to do with you. But even if you have private insurance, you're still going to be affected, and your family and children as well. Think of healthcare like a ship. We either all float or sink together. And that's largely because we share finite resources: hospitals, beds, doctors, nurses. You cut Medicaid, all those resources shrink for everyone. Because when Medicaid funding drops, the 11 million people who will lose coverage don't magically stop getting sick. They just stop seeking and getting timely and preventative care. And they show up to the ER instead. That means more overloaded ERs, more overwhelmed doctors and nurses, then just more delayed care for everyone. We saw this play out during COVID-19. By June 2020, 41% of U.S. adults had delayed or avoided medical care. 12% had skipped emergency visits and 32% had skipped routine visits. Healthcare resources were so depleted across many locations and specialties that many treatments and surgeries were postponed. Over 1 million joint and spinal surgeries were backlogged by May 2022. Over 2/3 of live donor kidney and liver transplants were completely suspended. Fewer people got cancer diagnoses and treatments. And this contributed to rising costs of deaths, strokes, heart attacks, even accidents. Almost every leading cause of death went up. Hospitals got overwhelmed and outcomes got worse for everyone. On top of that, if these cuts go through, hospitals and Medicaid expansion states could see a 19% decline in operating margins. Safety net hospitals, which see a higher share of Medicaid patients than low-income families, could see a 56% drop. And the cuts could slash $50 billion in funding for rural hospitals over 10 years. For context, 16.1 million people in rural communities get their coverage through Medicaid. 47% of rural births in the U.S. are covered by Medicaid. 65% of nursing home residents in rural counties get their coverage through Medicaid. So not inconsequential. And for the record, Medicaid already pays rural hospitals less than the cost of care. This means that hospitals, especially in rural areas that are already struggling, could face financial collapse. In West Virginia, for instance, these cuts could shutter 5 rural hospitals. And a survey by the American Healthcare Association reports that 1 in 4 nursing homes would have to close if these cuts go through. And guess what? As rural hospitals close, the workload shifts to city centers, straining those hospitals even more. Meanwhile, rural areas endure job losses, and not just medical staff. We're talking about cleaning staff, operation managers, and so on and so forth. In turn, this means local businesses can lose customers, potentially leading to business closures and decline in local economic activity. So what does this mean for you, even if you have private insurance? It means longer ER waiting times, delayed care for non-emergencies, which will lead to worse outcomes outcomes. An elderly loved one might be discharged too early because there's lack of resources, or you might have to absorb that care yourself, or your hospital could close down a wing or just shut down services entirely because it is all linked. Medicaid is like the ballast that stabilizes U.S. healthcare infrastructure. When it's cut, cracks appear everywhere, and there is nothing beautiful about sinking a whole ship, especially to give a tax break to the ultra-rich.